Hello, hello.
Yeah.
So good to be here. Thank
Yes.
you. So appreciate you. So I've been getting into the receiving mode more and more, and
Why?
for fun.
Because it feels good.
I like it.
Good.
Yeah. And I've been getting more and more momentum, and then getting to these spaces where the receiving mode, when I'm building momentum, I'm getting nice thoughts that are uplifting to me.
You're not building momentum, you're allowing momentum to build.
Ah, nice. Yeah.
It's natural that it builds, you're just not in the way, so
Yes.
it builds.
Yeah. I'm just
Perfect.
surrendering, and it just
Yeah.
builds and builds. And then I'll get to this point where the moment or the receiving mode will say, what do you want to talk about? And I'll get to actually I'll ask a question, and I'll get an answer kind of like this. And it's not what I would say, so I feel like I'm getting it from my inner being, and so that's been really fun.
Logical assumption.
Makes sense. And then this is recent in the last couple months, and then I would come home and I would engage with some old energies that would throw me, kind of feel like I crashed and burned, and then that was off-putting.
You didn't crash and burn, you just introduced sand to the trail, and when you're going that fast, you do crash and burn.
Yeah. And so I spent a lot of time really forcefully trying to fix and clear things. And
How'd that work out?
I've let that go. It's a bad idea.
Yeah.
And so I've been in more of an allowing mode. And so when
How do you orchestrate an allowing mode?
I wake up, I will meditate.
But when you find yourself in that mode where you catch yourself in the act of resistance, what do you do?
So when we were driving down here from Canada, we had a little line at the border, and I got all out of whack because I thought, I should have gone to a different border crossing. And I just stopped, and I kind of tried to just not think about it, quiet my mind. I gave myself a couple of, it looks like we're going to get through on time, it's okay, whatever. And then within 15 minutes, I was back in the receiving mode, and I just sort of tried to not think about it and add positive general things where I could. And
so we have a question for you.
Yeah.
Was your decision to focus and breathe and feel better, was it to affect the stopping, or was it because you just really wanted to feel good?
I wanted to feel good, and I wanted to be in the receiving mode to get up here.
But was the decision to get into alignment in order to improve a circumstance?
Improve a feeling. Because we were already in the lineup. We couldn't turn around. There's nothing we could do.
Then what was the negative emotion there to begin with?
It was just, like you said, me being mad at me for choosing the wrong border crossing.
So it didn't have as much to do with the border crossing as it had to do with you being mad at you.
Yeah.
So was the reason that you wanted to come into alignment with who you are in order to fix you being mad with you, or was the reason that you wanted to be in alignment just because it feels better to be in alignment?
Yeah, it just feels better.
Well, we know that you want to think it is that way, and this is the process for sure. But the reason that we're nitpicking here is because almost everyone who's willing to do these dumb tricks we're teaching you is because you want to affect a situation. You want to change something right here and now. Yeah, it's about that. How could it not be about that? That just happened. Don't deny that it happened. It happened, and it sucks. It sucks that you get delayed when you don't want to be delayed. In other words, don't deny that this thing happened, but just pay attention to what you're doing next that then allows the energy to flow. And what you did next did allow the energy to flow. But unless you're doing that for that reason, to allow alignment, why did you do that? Because I wanted to feel good. And it made this happen. Oh, so you didn't do it because you wanted to make that happen? Well, kind of, sort of. But I really did want to feel good. And we want you to, all of you, to get to the point where it's feeling good you're after, and everything else will fall into place. Otherwise, so, for example, Esther's coming across the border like that. And she's got to be here because you all are going to be here. And so she really wants to be here. and she gets delayed. And so it's like hitting a tree going 100 miles an hour, because she would go into strong worry about it. So is she delayed? Yes. Does her inner being know that she's delayed? Yes. Now, what thought comes next is what we're wanting to call your attention to. Her thought might say, I hate these unnecessary border things. Her inner being's not going there. So now she's off and running a little bit, more momentum. Or she might say, I knew we should have left earlier, but so-and-so decided that they didn't want to leave earlier. In other words, assigning motive to the border guards, assigning motive to your incorrect decision, assigning motive to somebody asking for the transportation not with enough notice, somebody getting the wrong transportation. In other words, did all of that happen? Yes. But it's that pushing against thing that is what trips you up. And if you can hear that and just softly let yourself receive what you want to receive, you will be amazed at how much more smoothly your world goes. But we're not teaching this to you because we think you want a smooth world, because you do all kinds of things that are really hard just for fun. When you climb those mountains around here, you don't do it for ease. You do it for exhilaration. And so we're just fine-tuning with you, because you are way out there on the leading edge. And a little bit of tweaking when you're moving like you are can make a huge difference in the steadiness of feeling good.
So what really helped me was I heard it, even though I've heard it a few times, I heard your calibration process. And I thought, okay, I'll give that a real shot. And I started to do that when I would encounter a negative emotion that felt like it was kind of older, and it wasn't just a passing thing, it was something that had come up over and over again. And I would just take the thing and say, I'm upset about this, and then, but however, in my life, dominantly I feel blah, blah, blah.
We want to give you another example. So, Mark, are these the new projectors or the old ones? Old ones? Several weeks ago, Mark and Esther had a conversation about getting some projectors that were brighter and clearer. And Mark researched it and found them. And Esther said, order them. They cost as much as a car. Depends on your car. But let them know. Find out if they're available, because we want them in a timely manner. And so Mark did that, and Esther felt a little uneasiness about it. Why? Because she's been focused on supply chain shortages. So she's got that going on, stuck in her vibrational craw. And so she has this feeling that they might not come, an opinion, and something in her makes her want to make that opinion right, even though she wants the new projectors to come. You following? So she says, okay, go ahead and order them, but let's make sure that they're going to get here on time. So then they find out that they're not going to get here on time. And Esther's saying to herself in that justifying mode, what good's a guidance system if it doesn't show you stuff that's important? So now she's defending her guidance system. Even though she wants the projectors to come, she's defending, I knew they weren't going to come. Now she's mad at the people who told them they were going to come. Oh, but that's not enough. Now she's really got to double down. I think they knew they weren't going to come. And that's what my guidance system was all about. They knew, and I knew. Are you hearing this? Even though she wants the projectors to come, she's doubling down on them not coming. She's assigning motive to why they didn't make it. And she's holding herself in a vibrational frequency that if something doesn't change, They're never going to get here. Well, Mark's positive thought will get them here eventually, but not without a lot of struggle imposed by Esther, who would rather be right than have the projectors. Are you sort of getting the sense? We're exaggerating it a tiny little bit. And so that's what this new process is, because you're doing it without even knowing you're doing it. And in this case, it was some company, in other words, supply chain is sort of slowed down. There are some things that you can't get, but it is the demonizing of it or the trying to point fingers at it that makes you be a perpetuator of what you don't want, a protester against what you don't want instead of an advocate for what you do want. That's really the easiest way to hear it. Did you hear it? The moment that you want something, what you don't want is in the vicinity somewhere, because you can't even know what you do want without knowing what you don't want. So there's this constant thing that you are synthesizing, that's moving, it's dynamic all the time, and you just want to lean in the direction of what you want. And the more you do that, the easier it is to do that. That is the easiest way to define that. There's no right or wrong, and you're still hung up on that. You want to be a deliberate creator, and you don't want to create by default. And you want to be on the upper half of the emotional scale, and you don't want to be on the lower half of the scale. And we want it to be all right with you whether you're on the upper half or the lower half, whether you're in step 1 or step 3, because you're figuring it all out just like you intended to do, and nothing's going wrong. You got it going on?
Yeah.
And now if you could explain yourself and Esther, why would either one of you hold doggedly to a little piece of your reality that isn't pleasing you right this minute? Because you've trained yourself to believe that what is everything. And it's not. It's just the bouncing off part. What is isn't where it's at. What's becoming is where it's at. And so who cares where it's been? Every bit of that up and down and that feeling good and that not feeling good, all has caused you to fine tune and to ask with more clarity and to create a business that's more pleasing to you from more directions and more aspects. It's better now than it's ever been, and it's in the process of flowing into your experience. And you're right. Your answer was exactly right. I'm just doing my best to chill and enjoy, but we want to add to that the powerful word, expect. And that's what all of these conversations are about. When you know the laws of the universe, law of attraction, no assertion, that's basically it. It's simple. And you know that you're an extension of source energy, and that source energy is always conspiring for you. And you know that all of the cooperative components are being gathered, whether you can see them yet or not. In other words, whether your eyes can see them or your ears can hear them. In other words, they exist in that vibrational reality. They exist. When you know that they exist. Why? Because Abraham said so? Oh, I want to believe it. I want to believe it. Abraham seems so sure about it.
Well, I know they exist because they happened before, and because every time I'm in the vortex,
there's evidence of it all the time. And so I'm showing myself in real life, and I'm making the correlation between how I felt when that came and how I felt when that didn't come. And I'm aware of when I'm on the upper half of the scale and the lower half of the scale. And even best of all, I know what to do about it. And I'm catching myself when I'm dug in on something and it really starts to show separation because my negative emotion gets stronger. And I'm noticing that every time it's because I'm assigning motive and pushing against someone. Might be me, might be someone else, instead of trusting my own worthiness and my own ability to receive.
So you're saying if it feels better to do a calibration, do it. If it feels better to ignore it, do it. But it doesn't matter what the process is, just try and just path of least resistance around the issue. That feels easier.
Perfect words. Perfect words. Really good. Really, really good.